Taking long drives has always been enjoyable to me. I simply love the freedom one has when it's just them and the open road. Once I had received my driver's license, the very first thing I did was drive 2 hours away to another city, just so I could enjoy the trip. I didn't do anything of importance in the city itself, just traveled there, drove around for a bit, then made my way back. Some people view driving as a means to an end, just a tool used to get from point A to B. Some loathe driving altogether, having to deal with other incompetent drivers on the road, and having to navigate cities can definitely annoy some people. Not me though. Sure, there are some times where I get cut off, or people not using their blinkers, but every day is a new day, and at the end of the day, it's just me and the road. That was until a few months ago. I had spent all of last year working round the clock to save up enough cash to do a cross-country road trip. I wanted to see the sights, visit places I had never been, and enjoy the serenity of the drive. My plan was to drive from one side of the United States to the other and back. Once I had finally saved up enough, I loaded up my car with a few travel essentials and headed out onto the open road. The beginning of the drive was as normal as it could be. Exiting the city I live in was somewhat of a chore, but after about a half an hour of driving, it was only me and the country road. It never ceases to amaze me the views one can see while driving. Some people often look out on long drives and see nothing but flat land and emptiness. When I look out over the vast country before me, a sort of peacefulness falls upon my shoulders. The first hour of the drive was just as uneventful as the first half hour. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly into the distance. I didn't mind this, of course, though I was becoming somewhat concerned at the lack of towns I had seen. Another hour had passed before I finally came upon a small town in the distance, if you could even call it that, really. It was a single gas station, a fast food restaurant, and a small motel. I quickly pulled into the gas station to fill up my tank. While I was standing there, I watched the sun in the distance slowly start to dip on the edge of the horizon. That's when I noticed something strange. There were no people as far as I could tell. My eyes quickly glanced around the road, the fast food restaurant, and the motel. Each place was vacant. I thought I spied one car in the drive-thru, but it was only a collection of bushes. At least the gas pump is working, I thought to myself as I finished up and climbed back into my car. As I pulled my vehicle to the gas station's edge, I sat there for a moment glancing at my phone. I'm not sure why I was surprised to find that I had zero service in this neck of the woods, but I was. After looking at my phone, I turned on my blinker and looked down the road. The feeling that arose within me at that moment was screaming to turn back and go home. But my desire to continue the drive that I worked so hard for overpowered that doubt. I made the turn and headed back onto the road. As the sun finally set, I started to become increasingly uneasy. It was like something was watching me as I drove down this road. I tried to distract my brain by turning on the radio. However, scanning through multiple channels on the radio provided only a dull static. Instead of relieving my mind, it only added to my concern. I attempted to calm myself by rationalizing that I was in a vehicle, traveling at a high rate of speed. Nothing should be able to get me. That's when I saw it. Though it was dark outside, the starlight glistened in the background of the horizon. Standing in the middle of what I assumed was a farm, contrasting the bright backdrop, was a shadowy figure. It towered above everything in the vicinity. I don't know why, but I couldn't bring myself to break my gaze from this thing. I laughed to myself as I finally realized what it was. A scarecrow. A silent guardian of farmland. I sighed heavily in relief, cursing myself for being as timid as a crow. Then it moved. It moved. Fear shattered my existence like glass on concrete. The towering figure took one elongated step towards the road. Seeing this almost caused me to swerve off the road into the nearby field, but I was lucky enough to regain control. After my fight with the steering wheel, I looked back to where I had seen the figure. It was gone, vanished into thin air. A trick of the mind, I thought. It was late, and fatigue makes people see strange things when they're tired. I attempted to shake off my nervousness, but as I continued, that feeling remained with me. I kept my eyes focused on the road in front of me, paying no mind to the fields on either side of my car. I knew there had to be a town coming up soon, as I had been driving for quite a while. After about 10 minutes passed, I saw it again. This time, it was standing directly on the side of the road ahead of me. Its height almost resembled a small tree. My headlights flashed across its body, and I almost screamed at what I saw. It stood erect, stiff as a board. Its skin was a mesh of gray and patchy hair. It wasn't wearing any clothing. Its arms were rigid at its side. The fingers on each hand were elongated with sharp points at the ends. Whether these were nails or not, I couldn't tell. What disturbed me the most about the creature's appearance was its face. It's not how it looked, but what it was doing. The creature's face was looking directly upwards. A motionless, massive creature, staring at the sky, unmoving, chilled me to the core. It seemed like something straight out of Silent Hill. As I was drawing closer to this creature, I floored the gas pedal and attempted to barrel on past it. Just as I was crossing the threshold, I gripped the wheel as tightly as I could. When I was mere inches from the creature, a sharp thud sounded from the back right of my car and I lost control. My car skidded off the road and trampled nearby crops as I finally came to a rest in the dirt. Breathing was the only thing I could do at this point. I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't drive. All I could do was breathe as I sat there white-knuckling the steering wheel. When I finally got the courage to look out of my window, I saw it standing on the road, still as stiff as a board. It took one giant step towards me, and I felt myself lose consciousness. I was woken up to aggressive knocking on my window by a police officer. He asked me what the hell I was doing, but I was far too panicked to think straight. He asked me to step outside of the car, and I hesitantly did as I was told. When I finally came to my senses, I realized where I was. I was still at that gas station I had previously stopped at, though this time, it was full of people and cars. Had I dreamt the whole ordeal? I thought to myself. Just then, the officer told me something that gave me pause. He said that I needed to get my brake light fixed or else I'll be receiving a ticket. When I rounded my car to inspect it, I saw that my back right light had been completely ripped off. Upon further inspection, I saw 3 long, thin, scratch marks trailing from my gas tank to my brake light. I sat there for a moment in shock, staring at the claw marks before the officer asked me if everything was all right. I nodded to him and he got back into his car and drove away. But the truth is, I was far from all right. I'm not sure what happened, if what I experienced was simply a dream or not. But as I drove to the edge of the gas station and glanced down the road, I couldn't help but feel like I wouldn't survive the next encounter if I made the same choice again. So I turned the other way, and I didn't stop until I finally made it back home. I don't think I'll be going on any long drives anytime soon. If any of you plan on going on a road trip in the near future, take a friend with you, or at the very least, stay off the road at night.